Hey friends, it's Gloria and welcome back to another video. You can already tell by the title, this is going to be a book haul. I do these here now and again. I don't buy too many new books. Most of these are thrifted, I find, at the library sale section. New books come in and I get to see them first sometimes and get to take them home. And also like garage sales, Goodwills, and little free libraries, of course. I have a little over 20 books to talk about, so not a huge one. And as usual, I categorize these for the most part as much as I can by genre, and historical fiction and nonfiction are always at the top of the list. But let me get some miscellaneous ones out of the way. I'm going to start with some contemporary slash sci-fi slash thriller, just a hodgepodge of books. Starting with The Reading List by Sarah Nisha Adams. This one I've heard lots of love and praise about. I don't get along with just like your general contemporary fiction books that often, and I don't think this is romance. I don't know if there's a grumpy old man in this story, but I want to find a book that I love that is a book about books, and I think this one has to do with that. Maybe a bit of a library setting. I'm not entirely sure, but I've heard nothing but wonderful things about this, and I think the cover is lovely and summery, so I'd love to give this one a try. These next two I found in little free libraries, and they go so well together and also feel summery. I mean, maybe fall because of the trees. I'll start with The Eagle Tree, The Remarkable Story of a Boy and Tree by Ned Hayes. Now this one, I mean, I really snagged it because of the cover, but the main character is an autistic 14-year-old boy, and this is set in the Pacific Northwest. That's kind of all I needed to know. I have not heard of this book, so please let me know if you've read it or have heard of it, or any of your thoughts below. This one intrigued me because this is a post-apocalyptic set in the near future kind of book, and it follows a couple and their unborn child, and they are running away from Los Angeles and heading into the wilderness to try to survive because the world has fallen apart. Sounds really interesting. I also have not heard of anyone talk about this one. This is by Eden Lepucky. I found Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, a very beloved thriller author. I've yet to try his work, and this is probably the most interesting sounding one out of the ones that I've heard people talk about. This one is about a woman that is apartment sitting and then, you know, stuff goes wrong. I don't get along with like psychological thrillers that often, but they work now and again for me, and I'm hoping that Riley Sager is an author that does work for me, so fingers crossed. A couple middle grades that are in wonderful condition, starting with The Green Glass House by Kate Milford. This is a lovely whimsical middle grade that I believe is part of a series. It feels very wintry, so I'll probably save it for that, and I just absolutely love this cover. And this next one is the start of a very long, I believe 10 book series in all. The 10th book still needs to come out, but the 9th book I believe came out this last year, and I'm talking about Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This is about a young 12-year-old girl who discovers she is an elf, and there is this magical world that she gets swept away to, and people really get along and love the series, so I hope I'm one of those people as well. I think there's nothing more fun than getting swept away in a little middle grade adventure. I do love the Harry Potter series. I've read them as an adult, not as a kid, so I hope that I can read these as an adult and also love them just as much. Then I have this small stack of classics. I picked up The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I don't know how to say it in French. This is also a very beloved pick. I'm curious how I'll get along with it. It is a tiny little read. There's some illustrations throughout. I know that Dia from Novel Idea really loves this book. I believe this is just like a whimsical story, but it tells the tale of like humanity and how to be a good human and how to live your life and childhood adventure, something along those lines. But I hope to read this one and I hope to love it as well. Next, I found this beautiful edition of Pride and Prejudice, the annotated version, and this is edited by David M. Shepard, and it is a very thick version of Pride and Prejudice, but this includes explanation, historical context, citations from Austen's life, letters, and writings, definitions, clarifications, literary comments and analysis, maps and illustrations. Pride and Prejudice was one of my favorite reads last year. It was the first time I picked up an Austen. I love the 2005 movie adaptation, and I'm making my way through her other works, but I was so happy to find this and add it to my shelves because Pride and Prejudice is definitely a book that I see myself rereading in the future, and especially with this kind of more broader context of the story and how it was written and about her life, I feel like I would really enjoy with rereading this physically as well. Next, I found Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. I know a few people read this for Victober last year, I believe, and I don't know if they loved it or not, but this is a Penguin classic that I got for 50 cents. I'm not sure how this classic holds up, but I love this edition. I'm willing to give it a try. It has to do with a governess and the disturbing exploration of the dark side of respectable Victorian society. So we shall see. And finally, in classics, I found The Thorn Birds by Colleen McCullough. I know this is a well-beloved romance romance family saga, one of Melissa's favorite books from Libraries and Labradors. I love a good pocket-sized book. It's very comfortable to hold. I haven't read many family sagas, if any. I don't know if Outlander counts as one. And this one is set on the Australian outback, and it has to do with dark passions, violence, scandalous family legacy, and forbidden love. To be fair, none of those things sound good to me, but I'm willing to try this well-loved bestseller. Next, let me touch on my historical fiction stack. I'll start with The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. This is an author that I haven't read from before, but I know many people love her writing. This author has an extensive backlist. A lot of her books are set in the Carolinas, and this one is set in 1970. I don't know any other details, but I know she has a lot of books, and this was just one that I found because I want to try her out and see how I get along with her writing. Another well-loved book that made it to a lot of people's favorite, I believe in 2021, was The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Dare. This is a coming-of-age story about a girl in a Nigerian village and her learning to speak up for herself. I believe that she is sent to marry someone she doesn't want to marry. I've heard nothing but wonderful things, and I would love to get this one read as well. Next, I found These Is My Words, The Diary of Sarah Agnes Prine by Nancy E. Turner. This novel is an account of a courageous woman's life and her struggles in the Arizona territories in the late 19th century, and it is a heartfelt American saga inspired by the author's own family memoirs. This one feels reminiscent of 1000 White Women, which I read earlier this year, which is a fictionalized take on a woman's journal entries set in the Native American territories, and I'm not sure if this has any similarities to that, but I've heard good things, I believe, from Amanda from the Curly Reader, so I'm intrigued to try this one. Next, I found The Last Runaway by Tracy Chevalier. This is the author of The Girl with the Pearl Earring, which I own and have not read. Another historical fiction author that I've heard good things from. I think she's a little bit more literary than not, and I like that this book is shorter. It's set in Ohio in 1850, and it has to do with an English Quaker and a woman that flees from England. I like that it's a different setting and timeline than I usually read, and again, I really want to try this author. I probably should start with her more well-known, beloved book, but I am happy to add this one to my shelves. Another author that I have not read but really want to, and I just keep adding more books of hers to my shelves, I'm talking about Isabel Allende, and this is Violetta. This one came out last year or the year before that, and I also have A Long Pedal to the Sea by her on my shelves, but definitely a historical fiction author that I would love to try. I believe she's Chilean, and this one is set in the 1920s. I think it also has to do with a family saga of sorts, but I just am dying to try this author out, so I need to make that happen. A book getting so much love and praise this year is The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. Now, I read Hamnet. It was okay. I know I'm probably closer to the unpopular opinion because so many people love it. It was definitely unique, but I couldn't pass this one up for 50 cents because of how much praise it is getting. It was on the Women's Prize list, I believe, and just all the hype. So I am intrigued. I do like stories that focus on one singular character, and this has to do with Lucrezia, which is a woman, and it's in Italy, and I think she's married off to someone she doesn't want to be married off to. There is a portrait of her, and this is Maggie O'Farrell's contemplations on what this woman went through. I believe she died young, so I think we know that from the start. I'm fuzzy on the details, but I have given into the hype, so I'd like to see what the fuss is all about. I'm predicting this is going to be another 3-star Maggie O'Farrell book for me. Like, I think I'll like it. I don't think I'll hate it, but I don't know if I'll love it, you know? Another historical fiction that focuses on a singular female character is A Most Intriguing Lady by Sarah Ferguson. Now, this is my second book by this author that I own. I have Her Heart for a Compass as well, and this is a novel of the Victorian era, so maybe I'll save it for Victober. This has to do with Lady Mary Montague Douglas Scott, the youngest child of Queen Victoria's close friends, the Duke and Duchess of Buccleuch. But this author is the Duchess of York, and I think she focuses also on historical singular female characters in London society and maybe their untold, less well-known story. I hope I get along with her writing because now this is the second book of hers that I own, but I am intrigued by these books, so I'd like to finally pick them up. When? Who knows? And last, for historical fiction, I'm so glad that I found this, also again for 50 cents. I read this book last year. I really enjoyed it. It was like a 4.5-star read. It wasn't perfect, and I understand the people that don't like it for the reasons they don't like it, but I really got along with it. It was a character that I couldn't help but root for, and that was Elizabeth Zott from Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I absolutely love this cover. I really love the character. I remember her name, which I know people said she's an easy name to remember, which is so unusual for me in books and unusual for a lot of people to remember the character's name, but this book has stayed with me even though I read it over a year ago. I am stoked for the TV series to come out. This is a book that's set in the 60s. I think it's marketed as rom-com, but it's not. There is a little bit of romance, but that's not the heart of the story. This mostly has to do with a woman standing up for herself, fighting the patriarchy, and I just found it to be a unique and lovely read. Again, really got along with it, so I'm so happy to own it. All right, let's end with nonfiction. I have a few left. I have a couple parenting books that I found for either very cheap or free. The first one being The Informed Parent, a science-based resource for your child's first 4 years. It's just one of those books that I'm going to peruse through and hopefully gain some information from, because I am in the zone to absorb all of the facts. And the other one is The Whole Brain Child, 12 Revolutionary Strategies to Nurture Your Child's Developing Mind. So I like that it's short. We'll be picking that up at some point. Next for nonfiction, I found Modoc by Ralph Helfer, the true story of the greatest elephant that ever lived. Now this one comes highly, highly praised and loved by Heather from Reading with Vengeance. It's one of her favorite books, I believe. I know she loves stories about animals, which I do too now and again. It has to do with an elephant in a small German circus town in the 1940s. Next, I found The Fairy Tale Girl by Susan Branch. I read Susan Branch's A Fine Romance, falling in love with the English countryside last year. Absolutely loved that book. Made it to the top of my favorite list. But all of Susan Branch's books have a personal story tied to them. They're very scrapbook, journal entry, diary entry kind of reads that include photographs and watercolor, and they're all handwritten. And I found her storytelling just to be so lovely and wholesome and wonderful, so I hope that I love this one as well. And I would love to read her other books. She has quite a few seasonal ones, but I was so happy to have found this one. And lastly, for nonfiction and for this haul, I found Breath, The New Science of the Lost Art by James Nestor. I read a book with my husband about sleep by Matthew Walker, and that totally changed our understanding and perspective on sleep and how critical and important it is, and how to get good sleep and all of the bad things that will happen if you don't get good sleep. I'm assuming this will be maybe something similar, but about breathing. I don't know anything about breath, but I hope to learn more. So those are all of my recent finds and additions to my personal library. Please let me know if you've read any of them. That's my favorite part about book haul videos, is the comment section. I love hearing your guys' thoughts, opinions, recommendations, anything that you have to say that makes me want to prioritize some of these reads. Thank you for spending some time with me today and for watching, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!